Yeah, but you're all dark and twisty inside.
Dark and twisty.
Adrianne Reynolds was 16 years old when she moved from Texas to Illinois to live with her father and stepmother in hopes of a fresh start. She had a part-time job and she was working towards getting her GED so she could follow her dreams of joining the Marines. But that dream was cut short for Adrianne on the afternoon of January 21st, 2005. She was supposed to start her shift at Checkers at 5 p.m., but she never showed up. Her family initially started searching for her, but quickly called the police once they determined that she was missing. While contacting anyone who may have seen her, Adrianne's father spoke with her friend Sarah, who was the last person to see her. She tells Adrianne's father that her and Cody dropped Adrianne off at the McDonald's by her house, at Adrianne's request, so that way her father didn't see a boy inside the car. But they don't know what happened to her after that, and they haven't talked to her since. Knowing that Sarah and Cody were the last people to see Adrianne, police wanted to interview them to get as much information as they could, to hopefully find out where she might have gone. Sarah and Cody are placed into separate interview rooms, and they're asked about the last time that they saw Adrianne. Sarah gives police the same story she told Adrianne's father when he asked, that her and Cody and Adrianne all went to lunch at Taco Bell, and then she dropped Adrianne off at the McDonald's after. In the other room, Cory gives police a matching story that is exactly just like Sarah's. It matches perfectly, right until the moment where he slips and mentions that there was an argument between the girls. When police go back to question Sarah about this argument, she tells them that she left it out because it looked bad. She claims the argument was over a letter that Adrianne had passed to Cody, and inside of it was an alleged confession that Adrianne liked Cody and wanted to hang out more without Sarah. Since Sarah was hiding this information, police began to press her more to see what other information they could get. She finally admits that it wasn't a verbal fight, it was a physical altercation, where they threw a few punches, but it ended quickly and the girls squashed their problems and agreed to stay away from each other. It was then that she and Cody dropped Adrianne off at the McDonald's. At this point, police had enough information to know that the teens weren't telling the truth, but not enough to keep them, so they had to let them go. A few days later, both Sarah and Cory arrive back at the police station to be interviewed again, but this time they have their lawyers present. They both stick to the new story, but this time Cory is more nervous than ever. By the time that the interview is over, he went back home for a few hours before police were notified by his father that they were going to be on their way back with a completely different version of the events that they had already talked about. It turns out, once he was confronted by his family, he broke down and he confessed to his parents about his role in Adrianne's disappearance. As days passed and there's no sign of Adrianne, her family started to fear that something was really wrong. But that fear became reality on January 24th when police were able to locate her scattered remains thanks to Cory's confession. Here comes the trigger warning. Turn back while you still can. Cory tells police that on Friday 21st, Sarah invited Adrianne to join them for lunch with Cory and Sean, which was Adrianne's boyfriend at the time. On the way to Taco Bell, the girls began arguing over Sarah's paranoia of Adrianne taking Cody from her. Why do I keep saying Cody? His name is Cory, you guys. I can't get it together, but his name is Cory, not Cody. So Sarah allegedly told Adrianne that she needed to stay away from her friends in her territory, which included Cory. By the time they arrived at the Taco Bell, the verbal argument had turned into a physical one. Sarah's boyfriend Sean tells Sarah to stop and that he doesn't want to be a part of the fight, so he gets out and he walks back to the school. Cory says that during the fight, the girls started swinging at each other, and when Adrianne hit Sarah in the nose, it began to bleed. When Sarah noticed the blood, she grabbed a wooden stick that she keeps in her car for protection and began hitting Adrianne with it while Cory held her down. Sarah then used her belt and strangled Adrianne until she took her last breath. Cory says that he knew she was dead because her face and her lips were blue. Once the murder was over, they sat outside the vehicle in the parking lot, smoking a cigarette, trying to come up with a plan on how to get rid of the body. Sarah's first plan was to bury Adrianne's body on her family's farm, but I guess the ground was so frozen that they decided to go with plan B instead, burning her. They expected Adrianne's body to just turn into ash after they burned it, but they soon realized that it's nothing like you see on TV. They even ended up running out of gas because her body was not burning like they thought. Now for plan C, and Sarah is sure that this one's going to work because she has the perfect person in mind to help them. Nathan. Nathan was known as that weird kid obsessed with death and killing. You know, the creepy kid who would just kill animals in their town? Yeah, that kind of kid. Sarah called Nate and asked if he wanted to help, and of course he agreed. 2 days later, the three of them met back up at Sarah's family farm, where Nathan began dismembering Adrianne's body. He first removed her head, her legs, and then her arms, and then he cut her torso in half. Most of her remains were dumped into a nearby ravine, but due to Sarah becoming paranoid of her body being identified, they decided to come up with a new plan. So they gathered up her head and arms and put them into a trash bag and headed out to dump her remains somewhere else where they wouldn't be found. Not before stopping at McDonald's themselves and getting a little bit of food. They finally dumped her head and arms in a manhole at the Black Hawk State Historical Site in Rock Island, while her torso and what was left of her legs were hidden in some bush on the family's own farm. Sarah and Cory were both charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and concealment of a homicide on on February 1st. Both Sarah and Cory pled not guilty to these charges, while Nathan was also charged with concealment for helping dismember Adrianne's body, and he actually pled guilty. Now, I am going to do a part 2 for this one because I do want to still talk about the charges that they got and how that played out. But I just want to do that in a second part because I know that this one was kind of a doozy. And that does contain a little bit more information that might be hard for some to hear.
You're all dark and twisty inside.